Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam Trailokyam Sacharacharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Twameva Mata Chapita Twameva Twameva bandhuscha sakha Twameva Twameva vedyadravinam Twameva Twameva sarvam mama deva deva Twameva sarvam mama deva deva. Jai Guru. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let me poke this box. Hopefully I won't log myself off. So what verse are we on?
Chapter 15, verse 38.
And a little louder if you can, please.
Okay.
Will you help us out?
Yes. 1 second. Okay. Sarva pratyaya sakshigyaha katham yeyo mayetyuyat vimrit rishepam vijani yasya jnana karma na vetiva. One should ascertain whether pure consciousness, which is the witness of all the mental modifications, is knowable or not, and if knowable, whether it is an object of knowledge or not.
So, the world is known through what we call the triputi, the triple factor. There is a knower, knowing, and known. I, Jim, through seeing, know the table. I, Jim, through hearing, know the traffic. I, Jim, through mind, manas, know feelings. I, through buddhi, intellect, know thoughts. So this is knowing things as an object. The self is never known as an object. That's like trying to see your own eyes. No one has ever seen their own eyes. Does that mean the self is unknowable? No. The self is known, but not known as an object. And this is very important because many people think if I meditate enough, I'm going to have an experience of the self. It's not it. It is not something that arrives, that comes, that's achieved, that's attained. We already have it. And it is known, but the knowledge of the self, the direct experience, reality with a capital R, is its own means of knowledge. You do not see, hear, taste, touch, or smell yourself. You don't emote yourself. You don't think yourself. Yet, I'm me. I know I'm me. How do I know it? I don't know. That's right. You do not know, but you know. And the scriptures use words like swayambhu, self-evident, or swayam jyoti, self-luminous or self-shining. Just as the sun is that by which everything is lighted, I don't need to use a flashlight in order to see the sun. The self is that by which everything is known, but itself is never known as an object. Yet it is not unknowable. In fact, it is always known. And this is the great cosmic joke. The most miserable of creatures does not lack the knowledge of the self. Are you suffering? Oh, Jim, I'm suffering terribly. By the way, do you exist? Yes, I exist. What's your existence? Misery. I am, I know I shine, but I am confused in my mind. I attribute to the self the qualities of the non-self. That is the problem. So what is the process? We remove our attention from the things that are knowable as objective phenomena. Anything that's in the Tripurti. And what remains is prakasha, the light of pure awareness. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
Adrishtam drishta vikyatam dabhramityadi shasanat naiva geyam mananyelva param brahma katham chana. The Supreme Brahman is never capable of being known by me or others, according to the teachings of the Shrutis, unseen seer, unknown knower, and finite, if thought to be known, and so on.
So the idea here is you will not discover the self in the scriptures. It is not, the Upanishads say, mind does not go there, the senses do not go there, speech does not go there. And then we think, oh, it can't be known. That's right. It cannot be known as an object of awareness. Does that mean it's unknowable? Well, we talk about knowledge of the self. What do we mean? Now, there are two kinds of knowing that we're dealing with here. And many, many times I've done the exercise in class. I usually do one of two of them, rubbing your hands together. As an example, the instrument for hand rubbing is hands. That's the direct experience. Now I'm going to do a second action. I'm going to reflect on that. Is it warm or cold? It's warm. Is it motion or stasis? It's motion. That I performed with my intellect. I reflected on the direct experience. Now, the metaphor falls down because hand rubbing is another objective phenomenon. But eyeing is a constant experience. Can't even call it an experience because it's not objectively known. But in those moments when the mind is very quiet, the attentive faculty is introverted, and in that space between thoughts, can you begin to see what is the nature of that no? When all the vimarsha, the deliberation, when all the vikalpa is gone, it's just the space of pure awareness. And then the subtle intellect flashes, it goes, oh, I get it. There's nothing there. That memory, that after the fact reflection, that's recognition, pratyabhignana. That's what self-realization is. That is different than reading a bunch of scripture and having an intellectual agreement with it. That is a value. But that's different than the direct experience. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
Swarupavya pathanabhyam jnanaloka svabhavataha anya jnananapekshvatva jyatam cheva sadamaya. Independent of every other knowledge, of the nature of the light of pure consciousness, and not distanced by anything, Brahman, my own nature, is always known by me.
Yes. So one of the things I like to say, self-realization is difficult, not because the self is far away or distant, but because of its profound ordinariness. What is it that's always there? Me. Even if I doubt that I exist, I don't think I exist, I'm a Buddhist. To whom is this occurring me? I've had Satori, I disappeared. To whom did Satori occur? To me. The individuality may have disappeared, but the ground of being never disappears. And it's always there. This is cheap. This self-realization. Everybody already has it. Why should I bother? Well, that's a good question. Nobody, no one lacks the direct experience of the self. There's a very famous story of the Princess Damayanti. Outside the palace where she lived, there was a pool of water. She used to go down in the morning and gaze into the pool, into the still water, see her reflection, and comb her long black tresses. One morning she goes down there and there's a breeze across the surface of the pool. She looks in and she cannot see her reflection. She has this strange idea. Oh dear, I cannot see my head. I don't have a head. So that's like you and me, I don't know the self. So she runs back to the palace. I don't have a head. I don't have a head. And the ministers think, very, very crazy lady. So they decide to tie her to a pillar. That's what meditation is. She struggles and struggles and struggles. And finally, she calms down. Then one of the ministers says, Damayanti, dear, your head is on top of your shoulders where it's always been. That's instruction from the Guru. And she says, yeah, but I don't see it. I looked in the pool of water and I couldn't see my head. And then another minister is clever, and he takes a stick and he hits her on the head with it. She goes, ouch! That's samadhi. These glimpses into the end. Direct experience of myself. So then they untie her, and then she runs around the palace. Wondrous, glorious am I. I am the possessor of a head. That's what we call second mind, when you think you're somehow special because you know the self. And then she settles down and she looks at all the ministers going to and fro, and all the servants sweeping the palace, and the king and the queen going by with their business. And every single one of them had a head. And that's when we settle down into real sanity. The only real knowledge of the self is its own self-evidence. And everybody already has it. What we do is let go of the stupid, craving, doubting mind. Any thoughts on this? Next verse. Did she disappear?
No, I'm here. Nanyena jyotisha karyam raviratma prakashane swabodhananya bodhecha bodhasyatma prakashane. The sun does not require any other light in order to illumine itself. So, knowledge does not require any other knowledge except that which is its own nature in order to be known.
Yes. So, is there consciousness one aware of consciousness two? Oh, I see the self. No. Now, listen carefully. Most of us think that I possess awareness the way I possess a thought or a feeling or my nose or my toes. I know a thought, I know a feeling, I know my nose, I know my toes. Do I know awareness as an object of awareness? No. Yet I know I'm aware. I am awareness itself. The thought, the feeling, the nose, and the toes all need awareness in order to be illuminated. But I need no other instrument of knowledge. The self itself is self-evident. Next verse.
Hello, Jim.
Yes.
Yes, a clarification. I think I understand. We know that, and you teach that the self can be known, and also it's a semantic thing, but that we realize that there's nothing there. And I imagine that in saying that there's no thing that can be known by the senses. It's not that it's a vacuum of total unawareness.
That's correct. When we say there's nothing there, it means you don't go inside and say, oh, I'm a little gray ball with wings. Oh, I'm a purple light. No, it has no qualities. It has no characteristics. It has no shape. It has no form. It is like space, yet it is being, and it is awareness itself. It's not non-existent. On the contrary, it's the only thing that does really exist. Is that helpful?
Yes, thank you, Jim.
Because it's non-dual, right? And we're in an empirical world of duality.
That's a good way to look at it, yes.
Yeah, it's hot, cold, bittersweet, pleasure, pain. It's nothing that can be experienced in the sensations that we get.
Next verse, please. Are you gone or are you muted?
Oops, sorry, I was muted. Na tasye vanyato peksha swarupam yasya yad bhavet prakashanta radrishya yo na prakasho yasit kanchana. Just as one light does not depend on another in order to be revealed, so what is one's own nature does not depend on anything else, i.e., being of the nature of knowledge. The self does not require another knowledge in order to be known.
Yes. So there need be no other instrument for it to be known. The self is self-evident. Now, what's the problem then? If everybody already has the direct experience of the self, and it's a constant experience, and it's always there in everybody, why do we have men and women of realization and men and women who suffer terribly? What's the difference? The difference is in the mind and the intellect of those people, which from the standpoint of the absolute is all in the realm of Maya, just like a dream is. In the mind of the sufferer, there's what we call a Varana Shakti, veiling power. In that mind, I do not know, I do not recognize my self-nature, even though I'm experiencing it. And then I superimpose on the self the qualities of the not self. Fundamentally, I think I'm my body plus the personality. And then the fear arises because I'm constantly trying to defend, protect, secure this phony self, this shadow self, which is ephemeral. I have all sorts of strategies to do that. You know, what do you think of me? What do you think of me? What do you think of me? Or I have these internal voices. I'm okay. I'm okay. Oh, I'm okay. Who was the character on Saturday Night Live that Al Franken played, who looked in the mirror and he would say that sort of stuff to himself? Richard something. Anyway, the whole idea is that doesn't ultimately work. It also doesn't work to reframe. That's what the psychotherapists tell us to do. Oh, I'm a terrible person. I yelled at my spouse. And the psychotherapist would say, well, no, you're not. It's okay. You were just hurt and you were reacting. And, you know, that's just because of your childhood. You know, it's okay. It's okay. You're not a bad person. You're just a wounded person. Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. These are methodologies to somehow redefine and protect self. And Vedanta says it's not needed. It's not needed. If you really look at the self, myself, yourself, it needs no protection, because what it is pure awareness. It's never touched by people, places, things, and conditions, thoughts, and feelings. V-shubham, extremely pure already. So it's just my stupid mind that needs to let go of these false superimpositions. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
Jim, I do have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
What do you suggest for the body and mind that is fearful that once the self is realized, or once the self is realized, that the body and mind will just be discarded or not cared for? It's my body, my mind are afraid of like just being neglected.
Well, it's a good question, and Shankara deals with it. He said, have no fear, your prarabdha will take care of the body. It'll be okay. What your question boils down to is if you have a favorite shirt and you're afraid of taking it off because you'll never have a shirt again, that somehow you'll be naked forever, not realizing you've got plenty of shirts in the closet and all you have to do is put it in the laundry. The fear is based on something that isn't true, that isn't real, that isn't logical. And what the tradition would say is continue to observe. I am not the body, I'm the knower of the body. And think back to all your most trying circumstances. Were not you there? And did not the circumstance ultimately pass away? Everything does. And the more and more conversant, directly getting it, samadhi, that we can abide in, the more I get rooted in the knowledge of myself, the mind begins to let go of its false identifications more easily. It loses that fear. Is that useful?
Yes.
And don't worry, Prarabdha will care for your body. And if your Prarabdha is to be a bag lady, it's going to happen no matter what you do.
Hmm.
But I don't think that's what's in store for your body. One of the things I like to point to is an infant. Jack and Divya brought their 7-month-old baby to my birthday party. And Mark and David, did you see the baby?
Yes, I think we did. I think Maureen mentioned
And
commented on it.
what was Maureen's response, or anybody else? What were people doing with the baby?
Extremely interested.
And everybody would have cared for this child. If the world is such that a 7-month-old, absolutely helpless infant is loved and cared for by the world, why should it be different for you, Abdi? The baby can't care for itself. Why should you worry if you can't care for yourself? If we think logically, we have it's just ego's strategy. That's all it is. I hope that's useful.
Very much. Thank you.
Next verse.
Vyakti syada prakashasya prakashatma samagat mat prakashasta prakashastarka karya syad iti mithyavacho hyataha. A thing naturally lacking luminosity gets revealed, i.e., has only its surrounding darkness removed, when in contact with something which by nature is luminous. The saying, therefore, that luminosity is an effect produced on other things by the sun is false.
That one's a little obscure. Read it again in the English.
A thing naturally lacking luminosity gets revealed, i.e., has only its surrounding darkness removed, when in contact with something which by nature is luminous. The saying, therefore, that luminosity is an effect produced on other things by the sun is false.
Yes. Okay. So if we are inside a little hut with flimsy walls and it's dark in the middle of the day, all that we need to do is break down the walls, and the luminosity of the sun will then reveal what's in the hut. Or here I am in my living room at night and it's dark, I can't see stuff. All I have to do is turn on the light. So this is true about jada, inert objects. They need to be illumined by some luminous factor. That is not true about the sun. The sun itself is luminous. So also, knowledge of the world is known by awareness. The knowledge of myself seems to be unknown, but it's already luminous. So all that need be done is remove the obfuscating ignorance. Does ignorance exist as a thing? Oh, I have 10 quarts of ignorance in my backpack. No. We can't say that it exists. We can't say that it doesn't exist. We can certainly say it's powerful, though. What is the antidote to ignorance? The antidote to ignorance is knowledge. Knowledge is gained through inquiry, through investigation. How do I remove my ignorance? Oh, I'm doing so much yoga. I did 1,008 repetitions of my mantra this morning. I'm going to stay up all night because it's Shivaratri. This will not work. It's like the king who awakens in the middle of the night and his room is dark and he says, call sweepers to sweep out the darkness. No. Ignorance is removed by knowledge. I remove the ignorance in my mind by turning the mind's eye back on the self, its source, the subject. Who am I? It's Atma Vichara, this investigation into the nature of me. That's how the obfuscating ignorance is removed. Very simple, not always easy, but simple. Any thoughts? Next verse.
Yato bhutva bhavedyaccha tasya tat karyamishyate swarupatvad bhutvana prakasho jayate raveha. Something non-existent coming into existence from something else is called its effect. But light, which is the sun's own nature, does not come into existence from previous non-existence.
So, when something is created, it comes out of non-existence into existence. So, the mug is made of clay. Prior to its manufacture, I have no idea when this one was made. Let's just make up a date, 2005. Prior to 2005, it did not exist. For how long did it not exist? An infinite amount of time. Then it was ordered by the people who were making it, and it came into existence. Then if I drop it and break it, it goes out of existence. Subsequent non-existence. So everything in the world of phenomena falls into that category. Now, if you're a physics person, we have the conservation of matter and energy. Matter itself is never destroyed, just changes form. We're not talking about that. It doesn't really come out of nothing. But the sun, relatively speaking, is always there. we know that in fact, it too is temporary. The ancients did not. But the self is always there. It has no prior non-existence. Jim, why are you so sad? Oh, myself has subsequent non-existence. It existed yesterday, but today it's gone. No. No. The self is in another dimension than the world of phenomena, though it pervades this world. I don't have to go to some other dimension, as it were. It's here. It is so here. It's myself. All Vedanta suggests is continue to examine it with a very still mind. Easy to examine because it's always here. And what you will find is it is a changeless reality. Nothing to fear. So back to Aditi's doubt, you're never going to become a zero, Aditi. Your nature just is. You don't become it. You're not going to lose anything. You already are it. The only thing to lose is your suffering. It's all that you will lose. And the truth is, you have moments of the thinning of ego all the time. And you didn't disappear at all. When you're lost in the dance, is that a frightening experience?
No.
You sure?
Yeah.
How's it feel?
Amazing.
Yeah. What has happened? You haven't acquired an amazing experience. You have removed your crazy effing mind. And you were there. Did your body cease to exist? Here I am dancing, and all of a sudden, down on the floor. Is that what happened? No. Your body continues to move and do its thing. Nothing to fear. Nothing to fear at all. Next verse.
Daviditabhyayam tadnya deviti shasanat bandha mokshadayo bhavas tadvat tatmani kalpitaha. As it is taught in the Shruti that the self is different from both the known and the unknown, it is other than the manifested and the other unmanifested. The ideas such as bondage, liberation, etc. are likewise superimposed on the self.
Yes. So when it comes to the world of phenomena, I illumine the presence and absence of the knowledge of stuff. For example, do you see the flower that's on my phone? Can you all see it?
We did, and it turned off.
Okay. Did you see the absence of the flower?
Yes.
There's flower, absence of flower. Now I've got a program open on my phone. Do you know what it is?
No.
Do you know that you do not know
Yes.
whether? Now you know. So when it comes to phenomena, we can know the presence or the absence of things. But you were always there. I'm having a bit of a senior moment. Read the English one more time. Because the tail end I wanted to talk about and I just forgot it.
Okay. As it is taught in the Shruti that the self is different from both the known and the unknown, it is other than the manifested and the unmanifested. The ideas such as bondage, liberation, etc., are likewise superimposed on the self.
Yes. So we're talking about two kinds of knowledge here, or the way it's expressed in Yoga Vasishta. Both bondage and liberation occur to the mind. The self is ever free. There is no other bondage than the thought, I am bound. That does not affect the self. There is no other liberation other than the deeply rooted conviction based on direct experience. Not that I'm an enlightened person, not that I was bound and now I'm free. But what a fool I've been. I thought I was a person I never was. I am Brahman. Now, where does that knowledge go when you go to sleep? Gone. So we give up even that deep realization, which in fact is in the mind. And from the standpoint of the absolute, even that isn't real. Now listen very carefully. Beginners who study Vedanta and read a scripture like this get caught in what I call the Vedanta logic loop. Self-realization isn't real. Bondage isn't real. Only the self is real. Why bother to do sadhana? These people are all fools going through all this effort. By the way, let's go shoot heroin. It's not real. It doesn't matter. Let's go rob banks. Why not? It doesn't matter. It's all illusion. In other words, it's used to justify our suffering. It's used to justify bad behavior.
But isn't seeking these pleasures what keep us in the vicious cycle of birth and death?
That is correct. But if that the seeking of the cycle of birth and death is real.
Yeah, okay, well, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, but I'm just like, if you ever want to get out of it.
That's the logic loop. That's
okay.
the false logic. And what Vedanta would say is, no, you've misunderstood the process. You cannot renounce something you don't have. First, get established in the mind, in Yogarudha, being absolutely samadrishta, equality of your vision in all things. Have the discipline to be able to stop the mind, and the mind abide in the self, meaning have samadhi.
Can I get that quote again that you give all the time? Both bondage and liberation occur to the mind. I'm blanking on the rest of it.
Both bondage and liberation occur to the mind, the self is ever free.
The rest of it, there is no other bondage. I'm blanking on the last
There is
part.
no other bondage than the deeply rooted conviction that I am the body.
Yeah, that I'm bound, meaning I think I am my body, and there is no other
Yes.
liberation.
And there is
Which-
no liberation other than the deeply rooted conviction based on direct experience.
Conviction
that
based on
I'm a
direct experience.
Brahman.
Yeah.
Not that I'm a realized person.
Yeah. Okay, sorry. Thank you.
No, that's fine. That's fine. But my only problem is my mind. And to just glibly say, oh, I'm miserable, but my misery isn't real, is doesn't do anything. I mean, there is, from the realm of the absolute, yes, it's true, but it doesn't solve the mind's problem. So we're given a process to go through, which hopefully I've been able to give you. But the verse that we had just now is for those people who, one, have developed tense spirit of vairagya, detachment, whose meditation is deep, and where they have this direct experience of the self, but are still plagued with thoughts, am I realized or not? Is this it, or is there something more? And then we begin to see it's the jonesing after some spiritual experience that has now become the locus of your suffering. Now let even that go. Subtle stuff. All right, next verse.
Aditi, I think we missed some verses.
Oh, did we?
I think 45, 46, 47, we went to 48 from 44. Am I wrong?
Let me see. Let's see. Oh yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, I skipped a bunch. Sorry, going
Doesn't
back to
matter because
45.
these are not that sequential. Let's just back up and do the 45 through 47.
Sorry about that. Sattamatre prakashasya kartadityadirishyate ghata divyati to yadvatvo tatmani shatam. Just as when jars and other things get revealed, the sun and other luminous bodies are called the agents of revealing those things on account of their proximate existence only, but are not really the agents. So, the self, which is pure consciousness only, is called a knower on account of its existence proximate to things known, but is not really an agent.
So does the self do anything to know? Is there an action? So what he's dealing with when we're knowing the world, there's the knower, the knowing, and the known. So is the self functioning as seeing, hearing, feeling? Well, not really. The self simply is, it's sthita. But its nature is prakasha, the light of illumination. It is never an agent. It doesn't do anything. Next verse, 46.
Bilat sarpasya niryane suryo yatvat prakashashakaha prayatne vina tadvadgya tatma bodharupataha. Just as the sun, though devoid of effort on its part, is called the revealer of a snake coming out of its hole, so the self, though of the nature of pure consciousness only, is called a knower without agency on its part.
Yes, same idea. So the equipment has the quality of agency. My body moves from one point to another. The prana moves from this to that. The feelings and judgments pass through the mind, movement. Thought moves. But I do nothing. I am sthita, still, standing, established. Ever the untouched witness, illuminator of it all. Then there's one more catch up, 47, I think.
Yes. Well, two more actually, but yeah. Dadheva mushana satyayam tattva manishyatam satyeva yadupadhotu yate sarpa ivotithe. Just as fire, which is naturally hot, is called a burner on account of its existence proximate to things burned, so is the self a knower on account of its existence proximate to objects of knowledge. For the self is called a knower when adjuncts are known, like the sun, which is called a revealer when the snake is seen coming out of its hole.
Didn't we just do that one?
It's very similar to the previous one.
Same idea, same idea. I don't think we need to elaborate it any further.
No.
Are we caught up now? Is there one more?
There's one more.
Okay.
Gyata yatno, but gyata yatnopi tadvagyaha karta brahma kavad bhavet swarupena swayam natma gyeyo ksheyo yat tat bhavatataha. Just as the self, though devoid of effort, is called a knower, so it is called an agent, though devoid of effort, like the lodestone. In its own nature, therefore, it is neither capable of being known or unknown.
So is there an action of knowing the self? Not really, it's just going on. Lodestone is the ancient word for a magnet. It's the nature of the magnet to go draw things to it. I think the example that is the clearest of what Shankar is driving at, in the beginning class, I'll have the lights here above me turned on and I'll have a mirror. Now the mirror has the quality of reflection and agency. So what I'll do is I'll angle the mirror and I can shine the light in various people's faces. So I am moving, I am acting, I'm shining on this person, then that person, then that person. But in actuality, the lamp hasn't moved at all. What's moved is the mirror, whose quality is to reflect. So also, I am now looking at the pillows on the couch. I am now listening to the traffic noises. I am now sensing the fragrance of the incense. I can shift my knowingness from object to object, from a feeling to a thought, to a memory, to an image. Is it the self that's doing all that shifting? What Shankar's getting at is no. That's a function of the subtle intellect. That's the chitta, part of the quality of the chitta. It's like the headlamp on a biker's helmet. So you can move your head and illumine various things. Now, the lamp on the biker's helmet has its own luminosity. The intellect has no inherent luminosity. Like the mirror, it borrows the luminosity of the sound. How do I prove that? If I fall asleep in this chair, I can't see the couch, hear the traffic, etc. The mind has been folded up. It's like when I screw if you have an old-timey camera, not your iPhone, that had a lens, and you go out to take pictures and you forget to take what do they call it, the cap off the front of the camera lens. Any of you had old-timey cameras and forgot to do that? I've done that. Camera cannot see. That's all deep sleep is like. It's like the cover on the lens of the camera. That's all it is. Does that make it a little clearer what he's driving at? So the self is not that which is shifting the focus of attention. That's in the equipment. All right. Are we caught up?
Yes, now we're
okay.
back to 49.
49.
Vidita viditabhyayam tadanye deviti shasanat bandha mokshadayo bhavas tadvatatmani kalpitaha. As it is taught in the Shruti that the self is different from both the known and the unknown, it is different than the manifested and the unmanifested. The ideas such as bondage, liberation, etc. are likewise superimposed on the self.
So the self is never bound. So if I have the thought, I am in bondage, I am miserable, I am suffering, myself is never bound, it never suffers, it's never in bondage. These are just ideas superimposed on it. Likewise, if someone has a deep samadhi, and when the mind returns, they have what we call second mind or enlightenment sickness. Look at me, I'm a realized person now. I know the self. Have an awakened mind. Touch my feet and give me money. That's still foolishness. That's still superimposing some idea of self on the self. It is like if I go to the symphony and I put on a nice suit with a white shirt and a tie. That's just clothing. And if antithetically I'm just schlumping around the house and I'm wearing torn jeans and a polo shirt, it's just clothing. My body has not changed. So ideas of bondage and liberation, just ideas superimposed on the self. Now, again, one should not use this verse to discount sadhana. These are verses to be used to remove that last idea, the meditator itself. Okay, we'll end here and we'll start with 50 next week. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om. Thank